Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Corn Productions here to talk about The X-Files, Season 1, Episode 16, titled Young at Heart. The episode's description reads as follows. A criminal believed to have died in prison years earlier wages a vendetta against Mulder. The episode was written by Chris Carter and Scott Coffer. Coffer has 12 writing credits and a couple of producer credits. This is his only work on the series. The episode was directed by Michael Lang, who would direct 4 episodes this season, 1 more this season, and Season 2's Ascension, which I am eventually going to cover. The episode originally aired on February 11th, 1994. Before we go any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you watch the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and give me a listen. Secondly, if you're listening to one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please follow and feel free to check out my YouTube channel, Corn Productions, where additional content can be discovered. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, and subscribe to my channel. Alright, so, I liked this episode as a kid. Not so much anymore. This is another episode of someone from Mulder and Scully's past showing up. It's now Mulder's turn with 2 people showing up, the villain and the former partner, or pretty much his boss. Like I said, they did this way too much in the first season. 5 episodes this season had this as a story point. 6, if you want to include EBE, which introduced us to the lone gunman, which is the very next episode. That's not necessarily awful, but that also includes 4 out of the last 5 episodes, which is kind of excessive. In Season 2, I can only think of 1 episode that does this, and only 1 in Season 3, but of course there might be more that I'm just not remembering at this time. In this particular case, I happen to like one of the 2 characters they introduce, and I do like Reggie Perdue, Mulder's former boss. But of course, naturally, they just kind of kill him off at the end of the episode, or somewhere in the middle. Gillian Anderson was pregnant at this time, and it would affect Season 2, and for the better in my opinion. The opening episodes of Season 2 were crafted with this in mind, and it's all the better for it. In fact, the series is all the better for it. Still, this is a step backwards in a lot of ways, particularly in the acting department. I didn't really find a lot of the acting here all that great, with the exception of the guy who played Perdue. The episode begins at a prison in Pennsylvania. A wheelchair-bound man, Crandall, hears screams and wheels himself into the operating room, where a doctor hovers over John Burnett and claims he's dead. Crandall is played by Gordon Tipple, 31 credits for him, 4 appearances in total on the series, all as different characters. The doctor claims Burnett is dead, but Crandall sees him blink his very cloudy-looking white eyes as he leaves. And credits. And yeah, that was not a particularly great cold open. It's not a great start. The person who plays the doctor is not a great actor. His line delivery was extremely flat. And it's just not a really good hook to start an episode. Scully and Mulder are walking, having been called in on a case by a former associate of Mulder. Scully asks why they are involved, and Mulder points out that a jewelry robbery is a federal crime. Scully thanks him sarcastically, and I'm pretty sure you and I both know what she meant there, Mulder. They enter the crime scene and meet Reggie Perdue as Mulder does a Reggie chant that apparently Reggie hates. He's played by Dick Anthony Williams, 102 credits for him, including Edward Scissorhands, a couple of episodes of The Shield, and an episode of Jag. So apparently the robbery included a woman getting shot as she was finished loading the bag, and the robber got away. There's a piece of evidence that Reggie brought Mulder here to see, and he keeps saying it'll blow Mulder's mind. And it includes a note that Mulder does not react well to. Reggie gives him a witness description, and Mulder says that's definitely Barnett. Except, it can't be. We get the history here, and Reggie was his boss. They were after Barnett, who started sending him notes. They got him, but not cleanly. An agent died because, as Mulder says, he screwed up. Though that's really kind of debatable. Barnett avoided the death penalty on a technicality, and supposedly he died in prison 4 years ago. Mulder takes the note to a handwriting expert who flirts with him hardcore, like, man, she is really laying it on thick. And she thinks it's definitely Barnett. She's 95% sure. Reggie shows Scully the footage of the incident that caused the agent to die. Mulder screwed up by playing it by the book. Reggie thinks he should have taken the shot, but it was against protocol, as the hostage was way too close to Barnett. Coming off the witness stand, Reggie says Barnett promised to get Mulder, and Reggie wishes Mulder would have just killed the guy, and I'm sure Mulder does as well. Scully talks to Mulder. He thinks it might be a copycat killer, but Mulder realizes she's seen the tape, and she thinks he did the right thing, but Mulder begs to differ. He says if he had taken the shot, the agent would still be alive to see his son play a football game. And we cut to a kid's football game that Mulder is watching, and I'm guessing this is the kid of the agent who died. It's never specifically said, but Mulder is watching, and someone is watching him. Mulder goes to his car, where he notices a note and some pictures of Mulder, just walking around, so someone is clearly stalking him. Mulder yells into the air that he will get him, drawing a bunch of looks from a bunch of different people who are not Barnett, and one who is. We see a man with very white eyes, the same eyes we saw in the teaser. Purdue thinks someone is messing with him, but Mulder is very clear that he thinks it's Barnett, and Purdue is pissed. He tells him that when Mulder first came into his office, Mulder pissed him off just looking at him. Yep, Mulder has that effect on people, but the Bureau had a lot of plans for him, with his mind and the connections that he could make that nobody else could, and he disappointed a lot of people with his career. Mulder says he's heard this all before, and Reggie insists that he hear it again. And Mulder jumps to the conclusion that Reggie is saying that someone from the Bureau was behind this thing, and that is in fact what Reggie is saying. And wait a second here, that's where he was going with this story? Because that wasn't really clear to me, and I'm not sure how that was clear to Mulder. I guess it was all part of those connections that Mulder is able to make, and us normies are not. Scully enters. She is a fax with the will from Barnett. His assets were left to Crandall, and his ashes were sprinkled in Delaware. And this seems to prove that Barnett is dead. But Mulder points out that a sales clerk also died. So if this is just someone screwing with Mulder, that's kind of an unfortunate step to take to do it. Mulder has someone alter Barnett's pictures, presumably to make him older, and has the various different versions printed out. We have a flashback to Mulder's testimony as he describes what happened to the jury. And after he's done, Mulder gets up and yells at Barnett, and basically is told to knock it off by the judge. And by the way, Reggie left that part of this story out. He did not mention the fact that Mulder got up and just started yelling at the suspect. They go and visit Crandall. He tells the agents about Dr. Ridley and the fact that Barnett blinked, so he knew he wasn't dead. In his office, Mulder gets a creepy call claiming to be Barnett. Mulder's stalling, trying to get a trace. Barnett already knows what Mulder is doing. He claims to be everywhere. He claims he was right next to him as Mulder got coffee. Mulder says he wants confirmation about who he is, and Barnett says he's got it, but then he just kind of hangs up. He calls Purdue, who's now pissed off because it's the middle of the night, and Mulder says it's only 10:45. Welp, Reggie was sleeping, and these days so would I. So Mulder, that's pretty late for us normies. He tells him that Barnett isn't dead. Reggie doesn't want to hear any of this. Mulder starts to say that the person in prison says his right hand was taken off, but the notes were definitely written by a right-handed person. And then Reggie is attacked while Mulder tries to find out what the heck is going on. But yeah, Reggie's dead now. Bye, Reggie. It was good knowing you. Mulder and Scully at the crime scene, and Mulder ends up saying that Reggie's wife died from cancer, and there apparently was a mystery novel that he was always writing that Mulder never got to see. Mulder thinks this is more evidence that he should have killed Barnett when he had the chance. They find another note at the crime scene, and so Mulder takes it back to the very flirtatious handwriting expert, who says it was definitely written by someone right-handed. She does say that if he were wearing a glove to write the note, it would not be smeared. And she totally wants to sleep with Mulder. It's pretty obvious. Scully says that Dr. Ridley is no longer a doctor. He was conducting experiments on someone with an NIH doctor, played by Graham Jarvis, shows Mulder and Scully a video. Graham Jarvis has 141 credits, including a movie called What Up, Doc? And apparently this is not a Bugs Bunny cartoon. He was also in a movie called Misery, based on the Stephen King book of the same name. An Internet Movie Database says the footage of the young girl with progeria was filmed after the production crew contacted the Progeria Society and were put in touch with the family of Courtney Arciega, who was a young girl with the disease. She and her family were fans of the series and were flown from the San Diego home to Vancouver to shoot the scene. Ridley wanted to conduct human experiments, but was pissed when the permission was not granted for that, and this was apparently de-aging experiments. Dr. Ridley lost his license when he proceeded to do experiments on human subjects anyway. Mulder is convinced that Ridley succeeded in reverse aging, and he has the same technician as before that was messing around with Barnett's picture. Instead, this time, he's de-aging the pictures. Scully narrates on the case and Ridley's work, and she starts to hear noises. There's a knock at the door. She gets a gun, and the person claims to be Ridley. She gradually opens the door with the gun, and it turns out to be him, though looking significantly younger. Meanwhile, Barnett was actually hiding in Scully's apartment. Mulder and Scully talk to him. Barnett was his only successful experiment, though he hesitates to call Barnett his greatest triumph because he has a healthy disdain for Barnett. And hey man, you are not much better, let me tell you. He himself is dying from this experimentation, and Barnett is not dying, just his eyes. Ridley discovered some sciencey stuff, and Barnett ended up with a non-human salamander arm. And that could explain why the handwriting expert insisted that the note was written right-handed, but looked slightly different. She still loses points for not realizing that the notes were written with a salamander hand. So Mulder, you probably shouldn't sleep with her after all. Ridley says the government funded his work, and this leads Mulder to meet with Deep Throat at a restaurant. And of course, this was on the down low, which surprises me because the government usually behaves so honorably. And this leads Mulder to meet with Deep Throat at a restaurant. The government is in fact negotiating with Barnett, who stole Ridley's research. Barnett wants money and immunity. Mulder hostilely asks if he will get it, and Deep Throat indirectly says, yep. And no, Mulder, to answer your next question, the government does not care that Barnett is in fact a murderer. Since when have ethics ever gotten in the way of the government doing something it wanted to do? Mulder doesn't exactly leave the scene all that happy. But to Deep Throat's credit, he at least looks embarrassed by the situation. Scully gets out of the shower and finds her messages playing. Someone has tapped into it. Barnett calls Mulder again, and he tells him not to get too fond of Ridley. And don't worry, I'm not. This guy is a terrible person. Barnett wants to kill all of Mulder's friends. I wouldn't exactly call Dr. Ridley a friend, but whatever. Mulder doesn't think he'll get the chance to kill Mulder. And Barnett says, oh no? Who's gonna stop me? This is the land of the free. Exactly what is that supposed to mean? In the land of the free, if you commit a crime, you're gonna go to jail for it. What are you talking about, Barnett? But he just hangs up. Mulder asks what Barnett learned about Scully by checking her messages, and she says that her mom called for no reason. That by the way, the voice in the message that was her mother was not Sheila Larkin's voice. And about a recital that she's going to attend that her friend is playing in. Mulder sets up a trap, circulates a bunch of possible pictures of Barnett, young and old, at the recital, and then Barnett shows up, shoves some people aside, Scully gets shot, but is fine thanks to a bulletproof vest, a girl is kidnapped, and Mulder ends up in the same position that he was in when he failed to act all those years ago. This time, however, he doesn't hesitate to shoot Barnett, he kills him, and the girl is fine. Doctors try to save him, overseen by Cancer Man, played by William B. Davis, who's credited as CIA agent, even though I don't think he actually is. He's making his second appearance in the series, but he doesn't get any lines. And it's interesting that he is credited, because oftentimes people who do not speak do not get credits. Despite their best efforts, Barnett dies. Mulder narrates that the scientific knowledge might still be out there, and we cut to a locker that probably has the research in it. Mulder says when they find it, Barnett didn't get his revenge from beyond the grave, but they might not have heard the last of John Barnett. And that is where the episode ends. Yeah, like I said, kind of just an okayish episode. I really did dig it when I was a kid. It kind of reminds me of Fire a little bit, and it's another instance of Mulder having to overcome something from his past. In that case, it was a pure fire. In this case, it was a failure to act. Next week we got, I'm pretty sure it's going to be next week. We got EBE, which is a fantastic season 1 episode, so we have that to look forward to. I'm looking forward to talking about that one. For now, that's all I got for you for this video. If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can join one of my Core Productions Facebook pages. You can buy something from the Core Productions store on Zazzle. You can buy me a copy, which is a new way to support content creators such as myself. And of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video as well as subscribing to my channel. This is Dave from Core Productions, signing off.